In 1971, Jackson was killed by guards at San Quentin during an escape attempt.
Our witnesses say that George Jackson was shot in the leg, apparently, went down, got up, and was running in a cross position, and was shot again.
They say that George ran for the gate with a gun in his hand. That sounds a lot like...
Let's say anything.
We were not unprepared for this crisis. We'd been watching the prison scene closely, after all, and had often discussed potential targets. The State Corrections Department had a suite of offices in the Ferry Building, at the edge of downtown in San Francisco. The gray prison bureaucracy was usually both anonymous and unaccountable. Flushing them out and humiliating them in their fancy digs was a proper step towards redress. We started moving people and supplies into a motel on Lombard Street on Thursday evening. Arrivals and departures from the motel were tightly rationed. We didn't want it to look like a dope dealer had set up shop. Stanley and I started working on the wiring that first night. Zeke was holed up somewhere, working on the communique, which we were all dying to see. We had the thing pretty well built, and were testing the connections by mid-morning Friday. Nick slid the box into the airline bag, then zippered the bag shut and hung it on my shoulder. Hugs and kisses all around and out the door into the bright California sun. All of the safeguards in the world could not take the fear out of the Enterprise from this point on. Up the parcel goes, my hands to his, into the hole. One last moment of serious vulnerability. Stepping back into the main hall. All clear. Leave in opposite directions. Don't walk too fast. It's 2:30. 9.5 hours to go. We did it.
San Francisco Chronicle, August 28, 1971. The call from the young man was made to Helen Garrick, switchboard operator at the Chronicle. She kept notes on what the caller said. Quote, "There's a bomb in the Ferry Building. It will go off in 15 minutes. They're doing this in defense of Jackson. Be sure to have the Harbor Police and the City Police clear the area."
The underground Weatherman organization claimed responsibility for the San Francisco and Sacramento bombings, saying they were, I quote, "in outraged response to the assassination of Soledad brother George Jackson."
The bombings came just hours before Jackson's funeral at this Episcopal church in the poor black section of Oakland.
To the Jackson family.
This is the 12th communication from the Weather Underground. The history of black people in this country has been one of passionate resistance to the slave masters. All too often, they have had to wage that fight alone. Black and brown people inside the jails are doing all they can. Must they fight alone even now? White people on the outside have a deep responsibility to enter the battle at every level. We view our action as simply a first expression of our love and respect for George Jackson and the warriors of San Quentin.
The Associated Press in Washington today received a 5-page typewritten letter in which an organization calling itself the Weather Underground said it had bombed the Capitol yesterday. The letter said, among other things, "We have attacked the Capitol because it is a monument to U.S. domination over the planet."
We didn't do it, but we dug it. The people who did the Capitol bombing were the Weather Underground. They bombed the Capitol to bring a smile and a wink to all the kids who hate the American government.
There are sick minds, apparently, in this country who think that violence can be used to bring about social reform or change national policy. It clearly can't, and moreover, these kinds of insane efforts hurt, not help.
When weather first went underground in '70, the conventional wisdom that we would be rounded up within a year. You don't remember the 50s. I grew up in the 50s. Every TV program, the police or the FBI always got their man. In fact, I think there was a movie code. You couldn't show people getting away with crime. So there was a psych in the population that it was impossible to defy the FBI. Everybody on the left said, no, this is only going to last for a few months.
Underground is sort of a state of information control rather than a place. It means having a lot of control about who knows what, about who you are and where you are. So you don't have a phone in the house. All phone calls were made from phone booths. I didn't hang out in places where a lot of people from my past were going to recognize me.
It's a parallel universe. I mean, the number of times that I would run into people who should have recognized me and didn't was astronomical. Because how would they recognize you? You were underground. So you couldn't possibly be walking out of that theater because you're not here. You're invisible.
There was a leadership group, which was the Weather Bureau, that circulated around the country and would visit various collectives. I was in one of the groups. So they would visit us occasionally. I didn't know exactly what was happening in all the other areas of the country because we had a need-to-know principle, right? If you didn't have to know it, you didn't know it, and you didn't ask.
Tonight, American and South Vietnamese units will attack the headquarters for the entire communist military operation in South Vietnam.
As President Nixon continued to widen the Vietnam War, American society grew more and more polarized. For a time, the Weather Underground seemed to have its finger on the pulse of the growing counterculture. For many young people, the Weather Underground had become larger-than-life figures, outlaws in the tradition of Bonnie and Clyde or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Their successful actions only added to the mystique.
I've probably pushed my nervous system as much as any human being living. I've taken LSD over 500 times.
One of the group's most high-profile actions was helping the counterculture hero Timothy Leary escape from a California prison.
I think I'm the strongest, sanest person around.
Leary was serving a 10-year prison sentence for possession of several joints. The Weather Underground was paid $20,000 for the job.
This group, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, do you know who they are? They gave us a certain amount of money to break Leary out of jail and get him out of the country. They were a drug group, mainly LSD, that had Leary as their figurehead, and they had a lot of money.
Black Panther leader Eldridge Cleaver said that LSD advocate Timothy Lee